Sports, a bridge that brings people together. And here in the Commonwealth, it's no different. From the gridiron to the hardwood and beyond, we all have a team we love to talk about. Now for the teams you care about, here's Heartland Sports Live with Trevor Rice.
And welcome into Heartland Sports Live on 106.1 ESPN Radio, 1400 on the AM side. We are also live streaming this afternoon on ESPN Radio 1061.com. Hey, it's Trevor Rice with you. Another sports week, another weekend in the books, and we look forward to this week as far as high school basketball play here on 106.1 ESPN Radio. A jam-packed week for the most part. Action tonight, tomorrow, and Friday. We'll talk more into detail about that here in Segment 2 and Segment 3, as we'll have a couple of coaches on with us this hour. I'll have James Haire of the Elizabethtown boys basketball team. He'll be joining us here in Segment number 2. In Segment 3, the new basketball coach of the John Hardin Lady Bulldogs, Nicole Coleman, will join us. Again, that'll be Segment 3 as we talk girls basketball in the final part of this hour. Basketball play here on 106.1 ESPN Radio here in the 17th District. We will have girls basketball tonight in Cecilia as the Central Hardin Lady Bruins trying to get back on track as they will host North Hardin at home tonight. The Lady Trojans coming away with a close victory on Friday over Fort Knox, so that should be a good one in Cecilia tonight. The Lady Bruins and the Lady Trojans going at it on the hardwood. Tomorrow night on the boys' side, it'll be Central Hardin and John Hardin, and all tip-offs this week will be at 7:30 p.m., and then on Friday, a Radcliffe showdown between the John Hardin Bulldogs and the North Hardin Trojans. So that's what's ahead this week on 106.1 ESPN Radio on the hardwood. Boys basketball tomorrow and Friday. Girls basketball tonight at 7:30 p.m. Pre-game coverage is at 7:15 between Central Hardin and North Hardin. Girls basketball this evening. Well, we have a few things we need to talk about. Of course, we're going to have those two coaches coming up in segments 2 and 3. Let's talk Titans this segment, also college basketball, as well as we really didn't cover the area teams, Louisville, Kentucky, Western Kentucky, and on the hardwood side, on the guys side from last week. So we'll get into that here in just a little bit. But first, let's begin with the Tennessee Titans, who had a 4-game winning streak going. They had that ended yesterday in Nashville by the score of 24-21. They took on the Houston Texans, who improved to 9-5 on the season. And you knew these last 3 games were going to be huge for the Titans, just for the fact that, well, they played the Texans yesterday, and you know they're going to close out the season with the Texans as well. Plus, the Titans still have a tough one in Nashville this Sunday against the New Orleans Saints, which you'll be able to catch right here on 106.1 ESPN Radio. It'll be a noon pregame, 1 p.m. kickoff. You can join Mike Keith and Dave McGinnis with all of the action. That'll be the Titans and the New Orleans Saints this Sunday at 1 p.m. And, of course, the Saints aren't going to, now that they've had a spot clinched in the NFC playoff picture, they're not going to let up, because now you can play for position, as it is a tight race to the top. You have the 49ers, Saints, the Seahawks, Packers creeping in there as well, and it's been fun to watch. The NFC has this year. The Rams getting knocked out with a loss to the Cowboys yesterday. And so we're going to see what happens with the Titans and Saints this Sunday. Let's look to yesterday, though, with the Tennessee Titans. They dropped, like I said, to the Houston Texans 24-21, and had a 4-game winning streak ended. And the Titans could have taken a lead in the division. Unfortunately, dropping 1-2 to Deshaun Watson, who didn't have the most perfect day, I guess you could say. He did go 19 of 27, 243 yards, had 2 touchdowns, but did have those 2 interceptions, which could have cost the Texans in yesterday's game. Carlos Hyde had a big day on the ground, averaging 4 yards a carry, 26 carries on the ground for Carlos Hyde for the Texans, with 140 yards, had 1 touchdown yesterday as the Houston Texans won 24-21. The Titans, Ryan Tannehill went 22 of 36, 279 yards, 2 touchdowns, had 1 INT in there. And then rushing numbers, Derrick Henry having a lot of carries on the afternoon, just unfortunately unable to break over the century mark. 21 carries yesterday, 86 yards, averaging 4.1 per carry, unable to get into the end zone as well. Ryan Tannehill had a rushing touchdown yesterday, 3 carries, 10 yards for him. A.J. Brown had a big day through the air, though. Man, if you picked him up on your fantasy football team, congratulations, because he has been doing work ever since Ryan Tannehill took over the starting quarterback position for the Tennessee Titans. A.J. Brown, 8 receptions yesterday for a $114, averaging 4.2 per catch. Had a touchdown yesterday. The other touchdown going to Dion Lewis for the Titans, who just had that one catch for 11 yards. As Titans now got to look ahead to a tough NFC foe heading into Nashville. The final home game for the Titans this season, as they will be hosting the Drew Brees and the Saints. 1 p.m. will be the kickoff, like I said, and noon pregame coverage this Sunday here on 106.1 ESPN Radio and 1400 on the AM side. So the Titans losing, dropping to 8-6 overall, still a couple of games. Wouldn't it be something if they do win these final 2 games, which the Texans would be in there as well? And, of course, we got to see how the Texans finish these last couple of games. We could have a first-place tie when it's all said and done between the Titans and the Texans. Now, obviously, the Texans want to win these couple of games and just secure the AFC South division overall and better their seed. But, I don't know. I think Titans fans in the beginning portion of the season, if they would have said, after that first few strings of game with Marcus Mariota at the helm, if they were told that they had a chance at the playoffs when it was all said and done, I think they would take it. And right now the Titans still in the playoff hunt as far as at least a wild card slot has to go. So we'll see how all that ends up. So let's look at the Tennessee Titans. Once again, they lose 24-21 yesterday. Other action going on as we look at the college side. The new top 25 rankings coming out on the college basketball side, as with Louisville losing last week to Texas Tech by the score of 70-57. That means a new number 1 this week, and Ohio State out of the Big Ten will be the new number 1 spot for men's basketball play, as it seems like it's just not safe to be number 1 this year in college basketball. Kansas out of the Big 12 moves up to number 2. Then you have Gonzaga at 3. Louisville, after the loss to Texas Tech, has dropped to number 4 in men's basketball play overall in the rankings. Maryland out of the Big 10 is number 5. Then you have Dayton at 6. Kentucky moving up a slot from last week, as they were 8th last week. Now they're moved up to number 7 overall. Duke is the new number 8 team. Number 9 is Virginia. Then it's Oregon at number 10. Then the next couple of teams, Memphis, Michigan, North Carolina, Auburn, Baylor, and so on from there. So that's a look at the new top 25 in the AP standings for college basketball play for our area teams, as Louisville, just that one loss, 10-1 overall record. Still looking pretty good. Kentucky, 8-1 overall. Can't wait for that matchup at the end of the month. Can you? I'm sure a lot of fans anticipating that one, as I'll be curious to see where our teams are ranked-wise going into that game. Now, obviously, I think Kentucky fans were hoping that Louisville would have kept winning and stayed number 1 so that they had a chance to knock off the number 1 team in the land. But now that doesn't look like it will be likely, unless, of course, those top 3 teams lose over the next couple of weeks before the Kentucky and Louisville matchup, which will be later this month. And let's see where this goes from here, as those 2 teams will meet on Saturday, December 28th. Let's now go to, speaking of Kentucky, let's talk about them real quick, as they were in action against Georgia Tech out of the ACC over the weekend, winning 67-53. You could say it wasn't the best of performances offensively, but they did enough work to get the job done. Nick Richards had 12 points, 34 minutes played. E.J. Montgomery, not really producing very much. Tyrese Maxey had 6 points. Emmanuel Quickley had 16. Ashton Hagen's a big day, 21 points on Saturday against Georgia Tech. Keon Brooks finished the afternoon with 10 points. And then you look at Louisville, they were in action as well on Saturday, winning against Eastern Kentucky pretty convincingly, 99-67. As for Louisville, Jordan Nwora had 26, leading all scorers for the Cardinals, and then Dwayne Sutton had 11. Stephen Enoch had 23. Then Ryan McMahon had 7. Darius Perry with 5. David Johnson finished with 5 as well. Malik Williams had 11 for the Louisville Cardinals on Saturday as they improved to 10-1 overall. They lose that number 1 ranking due to the loss last Tuesday to Texas Tech, but they dropped to number 4 overall, and they win 99-67 over now a 3-7 Eastern Kentucky Colonels team. Trevor Rice with you. This is Heartland Sports Live as we look now to, let's go to girls basketball play because, it was Kentucky and Louisville, if I can pull that game up real quick, going at it on the women's side at Rupp Arena. It was a thriller, as it was the Louisville Lady Cards defeating the Kentucky Lady Wildcats by 67-66, and so it'll be interesting to see how those teams land in the rankings, with Louisville being 7th overall on the women's side going to that matchup, taking on who was then a number 11 Kentucky squad. Well, as I stated, I will be interviewing a couple of coaches coming up here this hour. How about in the next segment we get James Haire of the Elizabethtown Panthers joining me, and they looked dang good on Friday night as they were in Cecilia taking on Central Hardin. 3-0, the E-Town Panthers improved to. We'll talk to James Haire about that matchup. As before that game, I had a chance to talk with Matt Nickel of Central Hardin, and he was worried about the press. I think he should have been just as worried about how lethal Elizabethtown is off the steal and creating open shot opportunities beyond the arc. Because it seems like E-Town so far here through 3 games, pretty accurate. And if they keep that string going throughout the season, they're going to make some noise in the 17th District. So we'll talk to James Haire coming up in segment 2 about where his team's at right now, where he feels like they need to improve. Because I'm telling you, I've seen them in person for the first time on Friday. I don't know where you improve, because they've blown out every single team that they've faced so far, being Washington County. I think they played Marion County too, and then Central Hardin on Friday. All 5th region opponents, 17th district play on Friday in Cecilia, as that was our game to wrap up the last week. And tonight, of course, we have North Hardin and Central Hardin going at it on the hardwood on the girls' side over in Cecilia, so we'll be back there calling the action beginning at 7:15 with the pregame. Boys basketball play, John Hardin and Central Hardin going at it on tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m., and then Friday we'll wrap up the week in pretty much December, because the kids will go on break after this Friday. It'll be a showdown in Radcliffe with North Hardin and John Hardin going at it, and that'll again will be a 7:30 p.m. tip-off this Friday before the break. Segment 3, we will be discussing things on the phone line with the new head basketball coach of the John Hardin Lady Bulldogs program, as Nicole Coleman, the new head basketball coach for John Hardin, picked up her first victory in our coverage last Tuesday when it was John Hardin and LaRue County going at it. They did lose, the Lady Bulldogs did, on Friday to South Oldham. We'll talk about that game and all of the girls' action which happened on Friday. North Hardin and Fort Knox were in a thriller on Friday. We'll get into that a little more in depth in segment 3, but we'll have Nicole Coleman on the phone line, the new head basketball coach of the John Hardin Lady Bulldogs, joining us later on in the program. It's Heartland Sports Live on 106.1 ESPN Radio, 1400 AM, and we are live streaming on ESPN Radio 1061.com. Be looking out for Western Kentucky football and a lot of bowl games this season, as Western Kentucky will be taking on Western Michigan in the First Responders Bowl, and that going on in Dallas on December 30th later this month. You'll be able to catch that game here on 106.1 ESPN Radio and 1400 on the AM side. Western Kentucky finishing overall this season 8-4, 6-2 in Conference USA play in Tyson Helton's first year And, man, what a story that is. After the disaster of what Western Kentucky turned into as a program over the last couple of seasons, Tyson Helton comes in here after being the offensive coordinator at one point and took over a struggling program and made them relevant here in 2019. And you would think after losing to Central Arkansas at the beginning of the season, this team would have just been on complete collapse mode. No, Coach Helton and the staff, they rallied the troops, and they came out and they got some quality wins this season. They beat Army at home. They beat Arkansas on the road, plus they closed out the season on a stretch of wins, beating Southern Mississippi and Middle Tennessee. Yeah, there's a couple of games in there that maybe if you go back and ask the players and the coaches, should you have won this game, they'll tell you yes. One being against Central Arkansas in Week 1, where they had a 2-touchdown lead going into the fourth quarter. Then they allowed 21 unanswered points against Central Arkansas and ended up losing. So you take that game, maybe the game over in Huntington, West Virginia, as they took on Marshall earlier in this season. That was another game where just a couple of critical points, Western Kentucky ended up basically throwing the game away and having a chance to win that one as well. So this team very easily, they could have been 10-2 when it was all said and done, which is pretty spectacular considering the fact that this team a year ago had no shot at even 500. Let alone even talking about an 8-4 season this year. The defense came to play, kept them in a lot of ball games, I should say, and it seemed like the offense was starting to click more and more as the season was progressing. And this team, Western Michigan, better look out, because this Hilltoppers club and this defense is for real. I don't know if Western Michigan has seen a defense this good all season long. I can't wait for that game to happen. Again, that'll be on December 30th as well. Well, coming up, my interview with James Haire of Elizabethtown, getting a big victory over Central Hardin on Friday. We'll talk about that game and where he expects this team to move forward here in the coming weeks once we approach after the new year. It's Heartland Sports Live on 106.1 ESPN Radio, 1400 on the AM side. And once again today, we are live streaming on ESPN Radio 1061.com. Back with more after this.
This is Stephanie Grimes, Vice President of Elizabethtown Area Youth Cheerleading, and you're listening to Heartland Sports Live with Trevor Rice on 106.1 ESPN Radio.
And welcome into Heartland Sports Live. Joining me right now on the phone line is James Haire, the head basketball coach of the Elizabethtown Panthers, who have improved now to 3-0 after their win against Central Hardin on Friday night. And, Coach, I want to thank you for coming on to my show this afternoon, and appreciate your time.
It's no problem.
Hey, let's talk about your team. You're coming off of a 77-42 win, your first game in 17th District play. How do you feel like your boys played on Friday night? It seemed pretty clean to me.
Yeah, I thought we played pretty well. By no means was it a perfect game. Central Hardin has a lot of quality players, and they got a quality coach. And the score isn't indicative of how good they are, or maybe even how good we are. It was just the first game.
Yeah, and you guys have since then, you get 3-0 now. You get a big win against Washington County, Nelson County, Central Hardin. Do you kind of like these early tests in 5th Region play to kind of see where your team's at?
Yeah. This team right here, we've been practicing for a long time, and they were just excited about playing somebody different than themselves. And, competition brings out different things in different teams, and right now it's brought out something very good in us right now.
You mentioned that these guys have been practicing together for a long time, and a lot of these guys have been starting for 2-3 years now. Still a lot of juniors on this team. What does that mean for a program when you're able to have this many kids playing together for this long of a stretch?
I mean, experience is, there's no replacement for that. These guys have been playing together, as a group probably since the 4th or 5th grade. And then we continue to play, and a lot of them chose not to play football. And I am a advocate of kids playing multiple sports in high school. But a lot of them chose not to play football. So they've been in the gym since July, and it's been like daily. They've been there or going somewhere playing. And we're just not seeing the benefits from that.
The Sherrard boys, Jaquias Franklin, it seems like you have a bunch of deep threat shooters at any time. But what I was most impressed with on Friday night was your ability to press, force some turnovers, and then the quick points in transition. It seems like you guys, from a year ago to this year, have stepped it up a notch. What is the difference between last year and this year at this time?
Yeah, the guys are a year older. I mean, last year we had sophomores playing against seniors. And now we have juniors playing against, juniors and seniors. That year of experience has helped. We have a couple guys coming over from football. Like Camden Williams was a starter last year, and probably will be again. But our football team's been successful. They go deep, and his transition hasn't been complete yet, along with Andy Gaines, who's a quarterback. So, I mean, we're looking forward to having more weapons and more things to help us.
You mentioned that the kids who play multiple sports, and then you have guys who specifically only play basketball. What does that what does that do for you as a coach, knowing that you can mix in players who are talented in different sports, and then put them with just your basketball players and still be successful out on the floor?
It means a lot. Whichever group we put out, it's not this. Where we're able to do different things, obviously those, my two little twins, they're guard oriented, and they are excellent in transition, go from defense to offense, offense to defense. And then we have some other guys that are better shooters and more stationary players, which I would expect some teams are going to start playing differently at times because we are smaller. So so we're going to have to be able to attack things in multiple ways, and we have different lineups that should be able to do that. But we're not very big. Any lineup I put in, we're not very big at all. But we're going to keep working.
Still a little bit of December basketball for you guys yet, and you're going to be participating in a tournament over the break in the Campbellsville High School Holiday Classic. But you have Grayson County coming up this week, tomorrow night, and then you have East Jessamine, and then you participate in that Holiday Classic like I was just talking about. What do you hope to learn over these next few games, especially as we get into the bulk of the season in January?
Well, you always want to know how your team's going to respond to adversity, whether either being down or perhaps maybe you might drop a game, and just see how they're going to respond. And that's what the whole season is about. It's ups and downs all the time. We all can be good teammates as long as everything's going well. Well, when things go bad, how are you going to act? That's when your true test of character comes out. That's what I'm waiting to see.
What do you expect in 17th District play? Obviously, you win on Friday night, but you still have North, you still have John, and all these other teams in the 17th District that you're going to have to be competing with. You play them twice. What do you expect this season in the 17th District on the boys' side?
Yeah, John Hardin is the leader right now. They are the number one team. And North Hardin extremely athletic. And they had a big win the other night over Taylor County. Central Hardin, like I said, they have a lot of quality players, and they will get better. I think it's going to be a real tight 17th district, and, I think one of four teams could possibly win it.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. James Haire, the head basketball coach of the E-Town Panthers, joining us here on Heartland Sports Live. Coach, I appreciate your time. Congrats on the win on Friday night. We'll look forward to seeing more of your boys' games later on this season as we get closer and closer to January. Enjoy the break, and good talking to you.
Okay, well, Merry Christmas to you, too.
James Haire right there, and, of course, his E-Town Panthers looking good through 3 games already in 5th region play, getting a big win over Central Hardin Friday night, 77-42 on the road over in Cecilia. I say on the road. I mean, it's not too far away, but still, it's never easy to win over in the Den, especially the talent that Central Hardin has. And to win by that much shows how far this program has come along over 1 year of time. They have Grayson County coming up, East Jessamine as well. Then, like I said, they'll be participating in the Campbellsville High School Holiday Classic going on over the break. And then January basketball, the 3rd, they'll be taking on DeSales, Owensboro. Then they'll play 17th District play with Fort Knox, Bullitt Central, Central again, Hart County, North Hardin, and so on through the month of January. So that's what's coming up for Elizabethtown. Friday night as well in 17th District play. Had another matchup going on. It was Fort Knox and North Hardin going at it, as the final score was North Hardin winning 78-57, as the Eagles of Fort Knox dropped to 0-5 to start off the season. They have, how about a game going on tomorrow night? They play Portland Christian on January 3rd. January 6th, they play Elizabethtown, North Hardin, Bergen, also Greene County coming up. That's through the midway point of January. So it doesn't get any easier for the Fort Knox Eagles as they look to try to and get their first victory on this young season. North Hardin, like I said, winning 78-57. They now have won 3 straight, kind of trying to find their identity through that first 3-game stretch, playing against Oldham County, Moore, and then Clinton County. And then getting back to the 500 mark now with wins over Warren East 75-44, then Fort Knox 78-57, and defeating Taylor County on Saturday by the score of 80-52. Not just defeating, they just blew them away, just handled them all through that stretch. Unfortunately, no numbers to provide you as far as what would happen in that game, but just know that North Hardin now 3-3 on the season. With games coming up this week, we'll actually have North Hardin on Friday, as it'll be a showdown in Radcliffe at North Hardin High School. North Hardin will be hosting John Hardin. That'll be a 7:30 p.m. tip-off this Friday. And then tomorrow night, John Hardin and Central Hardin will go at it, as it'll be a 7:30 p.m. tip-off as well. I believe John Hardin will be actually the home team in that one, as they will. Tomorrow night it'll be in Radcliffe. John Hardin hosting Central Hardin tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. You'll be able to catch that game here on 106.1 ESPN Radio as well. Let's look at John Hardin, because you heard Coach Haire in our interview say that he still thinks they're the top dog in the 17th District, and why not? They went undefeated a season ago through the 5th Region Tournament, so they're starting off the season 5-0. Why not think that this isn't the team to beat in the 5th Region right now, especially the way that they are handling business thus far, defeating Bryan Station earlier in the season 93-63, then winning against University Heights 81-44, blowing away Christian County 76-29, Fort Knox 97-33, and then Owensboro Catholic on Saturday by the score of 81-50, as it has not even been close. They were in the River City Roundup over the weekend, and all I got to say is John Hardin, they are out to dominate teams. Saturday, shooting from the field 55. When you're shooting 55%, almost 56% from the field, how do you not win if you're John Hardin? If you're that efficient, just look at threes alone. 50% from three-point land, 10 of 20 on Saturday. Now, granted, they're still not making as many free throws as I think Coach McCurry would like, but you look at where this team is right now from the field, pretty efficient. 47 rebounds as well Saturday in their win. Let's look at some of the scoring. Trayvon Harris had 17 points on Saturday. Devin Rogers was 16. Alex Matthews had 15. As it was not even close yet again. Jalen Tyus had 11. Preston Merle had 8. Lawrence Montgomery was 7 on Saturday. And you just look at the rebounding. Alex Matthews, once again, another double-double. So along with those 15 points, had 14 rebounds to go along with it. And his game is only improving here, folks. Last year, he was more of an inside threat. This year, he can be inside, mid-range, and I've heard his outside shot is starting to improve a lot, which he's making that transition himself because he realizes he needs to have more of a deep shot if he's going to attract more universities to try to bring him onto their program. Alex Matthews is good, folks. So is this John Hardin team. 5-0 thus far into the season. Here's what they have coming up. Central Hardin tomorrow night. You'll catch that game right here at 7:30 p.m. on 106.1 ESPN Radio. Then we'll have John and North again this Friday, 7:30 p.m. tip-off. That will be a showdown in Radcliffe. Then they play and the Matt Calvert Classic on the 21st. Then they'll participate in the Cumberland Falls Invitational Tournament over the holiday break, that December 28th, 29th, and 30th, before facing more Madisonville, North Hopkins in January, Campbellsville in January, and then they'll get into the heart of the 17th District play with Central, Elizabethtown, North, all in a 3-game stretch there in the middle part to later stages of January. Fort Knox in there as well. So still a lot of basketball to be played, and we're going to see where this John Hardin team is going to be. But right now, 5-0, dominating every single team. Elizabethtown doing the same thing, 3-0, dominating every team they're playing against. I can't wait to see those two teams play. And unfortunately, we have to wait until January 21st before we get to see them play. You remember how explosive those games were last year, back and forth, crowd into it. I feel bad for the officials in games like that because they're not going to win. You may have a good call on one team and then they're getting harassed by a bad call on the next, even though the call may have been legitimate. I don't envy being a KHSAA official when it comes to high school basketball in this state because the fans let them have it. You shouldn't, folks. You should not be harassing the officials. I mean, they are doing their job. And yes, they're not necessarily going to get every call right. But they're dedicating their time and doing our state some good by officiating. Because, I mean, where we've seen numbers drop off over the years, you got to back off just a little bit and let them do their job. Even though they may miss a call here or there, they are human. Yes, the human element is a part of the game of basketball. You got to chill just a little bit. Well, I have Nicole Coleman coming up. She is the new basketball coach this year for the John Hardin Lady Bulldogs. We'll have a phone interview with her coming up in segment 3 where we will talk about the girls basketball side of things. And John Hardin picking up their first victory for Coach Coleman last Tuesday. We were calling that game here on 106.1 ESPN Radio. They've since then dropped a game on Friday. We'll talk about where this team is, maybe where she expects them to be by the midpoint, maybe January, and then what things they really need to fine-tune if they're going to be competitive, not only in 17th District play, but just the 5th region overall, if they're going to make some noise come the later stages of this first half of the season, and then, of course, getting into the second half. And before you know it, we're going to be at the end of this season talking about the 17th District tournaments and such. So we're going to get some thoughts from her on where she thinks her team is right now, her basically gelling with this roster, because it's one thing for a new coach to take over. It's one thing for them to come into a program that's, just been kind of there and not necessarily seeing the results they would hope to see, and then taking over a program for girls who do need the coaching, who do need the time dedicated to them to see improvement over this stretch and help them grow as athletes. So we'll see where she is along with that process, and get her thoughts on where John Hardin is competing in the 17th District this season. That coming up here right after the break. It's Heartland Sports Live. You can catch us every show. I upload it on the Apple Podcast. Well, I actually sent it down to James Brown down in our Bowling Green station. He does it for me, and I appreciate him doing that. The show will be uploaded hopefully tomorrow because I'll get it down to him in time, and you'll be able to catch every show on the Apple Podcast link that I have on my Twitter account. Follow me at Radio Trevor Rice, and you can go and download every show on the go and listen back for a little bit of entertainment, hopefully. It's Heartland Sports Live on 106.1 ESPN Radio.
One more time.
And welcome back into Heartland Sports Live on 106.1 ESPN Radio, 1400 AM, and we are live streaming this afternoon on ESPN Radio 1061.com. I welcome now on the phone line Nicole Coleman, the new head basketball coach this year for the John Hardin Lady Bulldogs. And, Coach, I want to thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for your time as well.
Well, let's talk about where you're at with this team right now. You came in here. Basically, the team had some growing pains a season ago. You're trying to transition now into getting this team focused and getting them back on a winning track from where they were 2 or 3 years ago. Where are you at right now in the relationship status with your players and really coming along now that we're 2 weeks into the season? It seems like you've been competitive in these games. Unfortunately, you've just come out on the wrong end on a few of them.
Absolutely. Coming in, I knew some of the girls from previously, from either coaching against them or just being in the community. And so I knew about them. So when I first came in, I needed to kind of see where they were at for, basketball IQ and for as far as what they, what they knew and what they didn't know. So we've had to, kind of figure out where to start from. We've had to go through some film and watch things, a couple of games from last year, kind of to see, what direction they were going in that year, and then make adjustments from there. So we've been kind of, I don't want to say starting from like square one, but for us to figure out where we needed to start, we needed to go back and, check off some boxes and then go from there.
What was the hardest part in that whole thing for you? Obviously, you knew you had some talented athletes on this year's team. Where for you did you have to begin to really diagnose who was going to be your starting five?
I kind of had to see how they fit together. I knew most of their strengths and their weaknesses, but trying to get to where we have five that work very well on the court together. Kind of trying to figure that out has been, and I think sometimes I'm still tweaking a few things. And again, it goes to who we're playing and what, we need to accomplish during the game to be more successful is who we're probably going to have on the floor more than maybe some of the others.
You're 4 games into the season now, still really young in the season. You come off a 61-53 loss to South Oldham. So 4 games in, how are you feeling with the relationship and how how things have been progressing for this team over the last few games? Because, like I said, you haven't been necessarily on the winning side of things, other than that LaRue County game last Tuesday. Which congratulations on your first win there. But just the growing pains and coming along with that, do you feel like your team is learning after each game?
Oh, absolutely. That's probably the biggest winning factor for us is that we're able to go in and, early on in the season it was turnovers. And so that's kind of been some of our focus on how do we eliminate some of those turnovers, because that's what's ultimately going to help us be more successful on the scoreboard. And so we've dissected that with the girls. We've sat down, we've watched film. We always find something positive after the game, and they're able to see that the work that they're putting in at practice and the things that we're doing are making a difference. Last year, looking at scores, John Hardin didn't score over 50 points in, I think, over 2 or maybe 3 games. So we've been, at 50 or above in, I think, almost all of the games or close to that, and holding teams within a close margin to us. So, just because it's not a W on the scoreboard, we're seeing a lot of small W's throughout the game.
What did you need to do as a coach you mentioned the lack of scoring a season ago. Now, obviously, an extra year of experience for a lot of your athletes coming into this year was going to make a difference. But what are you doing as a coaching staff to help them be more successful out on the floor to create more shot opportunities?
We're getting them to see why we're doing the things we're doing, or getting them to recognize defenses and how to attack them. We're getting them able to see what their strengths are versus their weaknesses, their teammates' strengths, their teammates' weaknesses. We do a lot of breakdown drills. We do fundamentals. The girls put in extra time, like on Sundays, come in and and work on the small things that they individually need to work on. So, they're putting in just as much time as the coaching staff has put in to make them successful. Us coaches, we meet before every practice, after every practice. We sit down and figure out where we need to go with the next game and how to make them more successful on the court.
Nicole Coleman, head basketball coach of the John Hardin Lady Bulldogs, joining us here on Heartland Sports Live. Let's talk about upcoming games, the 17th District now. Let's begin with the 17th District because it's always going to be loaded every year. North Hardin still looking good at this point. Central Hardin, even though they may be down, they're still talented down there in Cecilia. So let's talk about the 17th District and maybe what you were expecting your team to do as far as the competition goes. And how do you feel like the league is this season compared to years past?
Well, I think that, Fort Knox has come out pretty strong this year. So I know that everybody automatically thinks that they're the 5 seed. Friday they gave North Hardin a run for their money. I think that, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is all looking very competitive as of right now. Last year it wasn't as competitive. E-Town's always strong. We have them tomorrow. A goal is to build a program so that you're constantly replacing those that you're losing so that you're always competitive. Central Hardin, they're looking very, very strong, just like they were last year. North's looking strong, but I think that we're going to be able to compete with them.
You mentioned this Elizabethtown matchup tomorrow night. They've set the tone for what girls basketball in this area should be looking like over the last several seasons, pretty much for the last decade or plus. Let's talk about this matchup tomorrow night. You're going to have a tough challenge, an away matchup for you here at Elizabethtown High School. What are you hoping to learn from this game tomorrow night, and what steps can you do to help your team here and practice tonight, get ready for this game tomorrow?
Well, we've looked at film. We know that they're a strong, competitive, well-coached team. We have to come out and worry about ourselves, what we can do to, set goals for that game so that we come out successful regardless of the scoreboard. We're still really early on in the season, so we have a lot of learning to do. So we're going to kind of focus on ourselves. I know, E-Town, you kind of know it's what they run, so you can try to prepare the girls for it. But ultimately, playing our game and setting our own goals, and still coming out successful tomorrow after the final buzzer goes.
A few other matchups here in the month of December. Frederick Douglass coming up. Then you'll be participating in the Nelson County Lady Cards Hoops Classic over the holiday break, and then a couple of other matchups here in December as well. What were some of the goals going into this season for you specifically and for the team as a whole that you wanted to really hold yourself accountable for?
Well, first of all, when I first met with the parents and the girls this season, I asked them what would they like, John Hardin girls basketball to be known for. And one of their things that most parents and players put is they wanted to be competitive. They didn't want to be where everyone said, "Oh, great, we get to go play John Hardin. It's an automatic W." So we're focusing on coming out and being competitive in every game, no matter who we're playing. And so my goal this year with them was, building a foundation, trying to get more girls interested so that we can continue to build a program so that we can be successful, not just this year, but in years to come. We're real young, so we wanted to bring out more girls, more competitiveness, and a bigger buy-in into the program.
Well, so far I can tell already, just a few games into the season, that your girls are not only more competitive, but I see the fight there, and I have a feeling we're going to see a lot more wins coming your way, Coach. I want to thank you for your time and talking to us here on Heartland Sports Live. Nicole Coleman joining us here with the John Hardin Lady Bulldogs, and we, like I said, I have a feeling we're going to see a lot more wins here on the horizon, and look forward to watching more of your games this season.
Well, thank you.
Nicole Coleman there on Heartland Sports Live. And I mean that. I truly do mean that this John Hardin Lady Bulldogs team looks much more competitive. And like I said, you have an extra year of experience now. You get to learn what you did a year ago and change things this year to see what's going to work for you. But I genuinely think that this team is much better off now, and I feel once she gets the pieces in place where she needs to moving forward, and this team starts to get a couple of victories to build some confidence, I really feel like this John Hardin Bulldogs team could make some noise in the 17th District and 5th Region, even as soon as this year. Maybe not right this moment, but if they can get a couple of victories here over the holiday break and before January gets here, look out, because John Hardin could make some noise in the district this season. Let's go ahead and look at a couple of other teams here in the 17th District as we get ready to wrap up Heartland Sports Live today. Of course, Elizabethtown still undefeated to this point. They won over Barron County 69-53 in the Barron Hoops Classic on Saturday. They will take on John Hardin tomorrow night at 6 p.m. and then Anderson County in the Traditional Bank Holiday Classic beginning December 20th, and they'll continue with a string of a few other games as well. And then they'll go to Charleston, South Carolina for some basketball in the Carolina Invitational coming up later this month. And then they'll pick things back up after the new year against Fort Knox, Central Hardin, North Hardin, all 17th District foes beginning January 4th through the 9th. Our game tonight, North Hardin and Central Hardin, you'll be able to catch that right here on 106.1 ESPN Radio. 7:30 p.m. tip-off, 7:15 pregame coverage. North Hardin, Central Hardin, that game going on this evening. Central Hardin struggling so far, 1-4, but you have a feeling that Coach Christina Covington-Jones will get that thing changed, and they'll start to rattle off some victories hopefully here in the coming weeks. And they're going to take on a North Hardin team who had a little bit of a scare Friday night as they took on the Fort Knox Lady Eagles. Won by 10, but they were down by, I think it was 3 at the halftime break. Had to come back and really set the tone there in the second half for Whitney Hooper and that coaching staff for North Hardin, but they were able to secure a 10-point victory, 44-34 over Fort Knox Friday night. They will play, like I said, Central Hardin tonight. They have Bullitt Central on the way. Bell County, Lloyd Memorial is still coming up this month as well. So a lot of basketball for these teams, even during the holiday break. And, so be looking forward to all of those matchups happening. And then more district play will begin in January for all of the teams. And then Fort Knox, as we wrap up our girls coverage, they fell to 0-5 on Saturday. They ended up losing to North Oldham as, they started off the season 0-5. A tough one against North Hardin. Like I said, they were competing for 4 quarters. Unfortunately, unable to finish it off and collect their first victory. They have LaRue County coming up out of the 18th District still tomorrow night, or no, it's tonight, excuse me, in Fort Knox and LaRue County tonight at 7:30 p.m., and then Beth Haven to wrap up this year anyway, and then they'll begin January 3rd against Portland Christian, Elizabethtown, Bergen, Greene County, and so many more. That on the girls' side of things for Fort Knox. And that is it for me, as we have covered everything that we needed to this hour. I want to thank you for joining me. This is Heartland Sports Live. We'll come back again next Monday, 5 until 6. Hopefully I can get a couple of more coaches on from around the area. Maybe we'll talk to Central Hardin and North Hardin coaches next Monday, and over the next couple of weeks anyway, because we still got to talk to both the boys and girls basketball coaches for North and Central yet here on Heartland Sports Live to get their perspective on where they think their team is right now and where they aspire to go come January and once the new year gets here. Maybe everybody's New Year's resolution will be to win a 17th District championship. Possibly. I'm just saying. Hey, it's Trevor Rice. You can go ahead and listen back to every Heartland Sports Live show on the Apple Podcast link. You can go to my Twitter account, @RadioTrevorRice. There I have a link that you can go and download every show. Hopefully this show will be uploaded tomorrow. It's Heartland Sports Live. We'll be back with it next Monday, 5 until 6. Enjoy the sports week. 106.1 ESPN Radio.